Here we go.
Hi,
Okay.
Stephanie. Welcome to Voices on the
Hi.
Path to Soul Freedom. Yeah, why don't you tell the audience a little bit about yourself?
Okay. My name is Stephanie Williams, and I was born in Denver, Colorado, but I didn't stay there long, 6 months. 6 months we left, and my parents moved to Los Angeles, but they divorced when I was young, so I've lived back and forth between Los Angeles and New York City, literally every 2 years until I was 18. So I've been to many schools. And when I lived in New York, I went to Catholic school. When I lived in Los Angeles, my mother wasn't very spiritual. But make a long story short, my sacred labor or what I do in this life, I'm in the medical field. I had scarlet fever when I was a child, and I was quarantined. And back then, and my mother bought me a doctor's bag. And I knew when to play with while I was quarantined in the hospital. And I knew when I had that doctor's bag that I was going into medicine. So make a long story short, I went to school, became a physician assistant, and right now I'll be 73 next month. And the journey in medicine, but I've had an affinity to natural healing. How I came on the path of the brotherhood. I've always been interested in the Eastern teachings, even though I was periodically in Catholic school or Catholic. I had a conversation with a priest in confession. I was 16, and I asked him, well, if you live in Africa or you live in China or you live in some place where they've never heard the name of Jesus, will they be saved? And I pretty much believe that the priest told me no. And I said, well, if they're doing everything that they should be doing from their religion and their heart is pure, and they're a Buddhist, or they're in Africa, or they're in China, or they're in whatever country. If I was God, if their motive, if their heart was pure, how could they not be saved? So after the priest and I had that conversation, I was like, this doesn't sound right. So anyway, some kind of way I read the Eastern Master teachings, the Himalayan masters, and I knew I had to find my teacher. And just when I was in the PA program, I was studying astrology. And my teacher there, he was studying with the Arcane School, which is a school at that time was in New York under Alice Bailey. And I had tried to be affiliated with this esoteric type of astrology and meditation, but it was a little over my head, right? So at that time, when I found the teachings, well, before I found the teaching, I was in Buddhism because I have studied Catholicism, Islam, self-realization, and the autobiography of a yogi. I mean, if anyone has ever read that book, that was very enlightening. And I knew that I had to find my teacher. So after I finished the PA program, well, make a long story short, I thought I was going to India after I was going to leave the PA program, but I became pregnant.
Mhm.
So I really wanted to be a really good mother. And I didn't know anything about motherhood. And so, make a long story short, the gentleman that I was studying with for astrology told me that in his meditation that there was an outer organization of the Great White Brotherhood in Pasadena. Now I'm living in Los Angeles. Well, when I heard the term Great White Brotherhood, that kind of threw me. But he explained to me it's not of race, it's the purity of the aura.
Mhm.
And, we've seen saints with the halo. And so I understood.
Mhm.
So make a long story short, my partner and I, we came to Pasadena to the Easter retreat. And when I saw the Master El Moria, I knew that was in 1978. And what is this, 2025? So 47 years I've been on the path. When I saw El Moria's picture, I didn't know who he was, but I said, that is who I've been looking for. And I was pregnant, and everybody was so kind. And um, that was the beginning of I found my community. I didn't know who Elizabeth Clare Prophet was at that time. I would come to service and I was intrigued by her because I would kind of fall asleep, but her personality was so different every week. And I didn't know what dictations were. I don't think I realized what dictations were. And um, for a new person looking, if you're watching my video, you have to be in the presence of an ascended master. And Mark and Elizabeth Prophet are the ministers for the Great White Brotherhood at that time. And there's a lot of literature that you will find on the Ascended Master's teachings. But when I came into the teachings, I didn't know who Elizabeth Clare Prophet was. But because I wanted to be a very good mother, and at that time they had the Montessori school and they moved to Malibu, and it was just like to find this type of community in America, in Los Angeles, it's almost like you're stepping in another realm. I can only tell you my experience and the community. And so I have been on the path for 47 years and studied the teachings, and we have Summit University. And I don't know what your affinity is if you're a Buddhist, if you're a devotee to Mother Mary, Jesus. That's what I love about the teachings because we all have a different background and depending upon what your affinity is, you have that particular master who you may have a relationship with. For me, it was El Moria. And then I've learned, and when I read the Pearl of Wisdom, which are the teachings of the masters, Sanat Kumara, and the 144,000, I always was intrigued by that. Um, so when I read his Pearl of Wisdom, and back then when I came in the teachings, you would go to Summit University, which is like a mystery school, and you study the teachings of the Brotherhood, and you would be there for 3 months. So I bought my daughter at 9 months old. My mother had a fit, but it was the most wonderful experience. We would be in class, and there were teachers that would take your child, and on your lunch break, you would come and you could nurse your baby, and the wonderful food and how Camelot was back then. And it was just a wonderful experience. And for me, not knowing, I knew that I wanted a different environment for my daughter. I didn't not want her to grow up, even though I had a wonderful childhood and my parents were divorced, but I wanted her to be in a spiritual environment. So I was very grateful that she could be at Camelot, which was what we called the teachings of the Brotherhood. We were in Malibu, but that was the headquarters back then. So did I go on, or did I answer some of your questions?
Well, you
Yeah.
mentioned teachings and you mentioned Summit University. Can you tell us a little bit more?
Summit University, you go away for then now it's a week. But back then you would have to quit your job, which I did. And it's the zeal of the fire. I just had faith that well, being in the medical field, that's probably one of the blessings because I knew I could find another job. But in this life, um, I knew that there was more than career um, materiality. I wanted to know, why am I here? And it was like a thorn, literally. And even when the teacher that brought me into the teachings, Musa, he said in my astrological analysis that I had this yearning, and he was very correct that I had to find my teacher. I had to. And I thought I had to go to India. But when I found that the Brotherhood had a outer outpost here in America, I was just, so when I came to Pasadena then, I knew that this is where I should be. And I had never left for 47 years. So, um, Summit University back then was 90 days, and you were at the headquarters of in Malibu. Now you would have to go to Montana. It's Maitreya's Mystery School. It's if you anyone when we go to Montana if you're able. Um, we have quarterly conferences, and I try to go every summer. And because I'm in the medical field, now I work in first aid, but you could come to Montana, right next to Yellowstone Park. The outpost of the Great White Brotherhood is not too far from Yellowstone between Gardner and Livingston. You would fly into Bozeman, and it's the most wonderful experience if you can make it. The biggest conferences are summer and New Year's, but Easter is magnificent too, and the fall conference. So people come literally from all over the world. A retreat to study the teachings of the Ascended Masters. And so Summit University is every year, every summer. Back then it was 3 months, now it's a week. So you have choices to come to the conference for 5 days, or you could come to SU, Summit University, and it is a different theme. Um, for example, world teachers, it just depends upon what you want to experience when you come. So that is the great teachings and the dictations and fellowship with brothers and sisters from all over the world. It's just, it's a wonderful experience. Energetically, most of all, because um, I make a joke. Where can you go and leave your purse, cell phone in the kitchen, and you come back and it'll still be there, or it'll be in lost and found? Nobody is going to take anything from you. Just the fellowship, listening, just meeting people from all over the world and their travels and how they found the teaching, it's really fascinating. So, yeah,
What,
I live in
yeah,
Atlanta, Georgia right now. Go ahead.
so
And this is the longest place I've ever lived because I lived in California and New York, but I've been here since 1994. I have three children by birth and two stepchildren, and we have a small study group here of the Ascended Masters teaching, the Atlanta Summit Lighthouse Study Group. So if anybody is seeing this YouTube video and you live in Atlanta, um, we're here. So
you You mentioned you found out the answer to the question, why am I here on Earth here? What would you tell people what you found?
Well, I know this might sound a little strange, but I always felt like I just felt different. Like, well, when I was younger, I would kind of follow the crowd, but there was a sadness. When I in my early 20s because um I was doing things that I knew I shouldn't be doing, but I didn't know what I should be doing. And then when you go to school and you get your own place and you find out how what it takes to live, I knew I needed to get serious. And when I had my daughter, when I was pregnant with her, I knew then that I'm raising another human being and that this is no joke. And I needed to really set my life in the direction. She was my inspiration, really, to be serious about the path because I felt like environment is everything for a child. And depending upon my consciousness, I'm her teacher right now. So she's depending on me and I'm depending on God for us to be able to pull this off and raising her. So um that's how you dibble and dabble, you read little things, but having her, I became very serious. And then, of course, I had more children, got married, on and on. So I would say my children were truly my inspiration. And studying the teachings of the Ascended Masters, the Christ consciousness is just not for one person. It's universal. The Buddhic consciousness is universal. We were made in God's image, and it makes sense. So, and then when I heard the name Sanat Kumara, I was like, it was just a remembrance of someone that was very precious to me. So everybody has an inner calling. Sometimes we get distracted, but it just depends upon your zeal and your fervor that I had a feeling that it was so important in this life, and we still do, even now, that we're here to help in evolution. And we came here. Some of us got stuck in this fly paper like me, and we're trying to go home. And you want to take your brothers and sisters, those that have the eyes to see and the ears to hear, um, we want to return home, but mostly to have a victory on this star. And so that's my understanding now. And I'm still learning every day because it's so vast, these teachings. So did I answer your question?
Yes, but now I want to know, what does it mean to try to go home, and how do you have a victory?
Well, um, the mercy of the violet flame. Um, the two great things for me that were liberating was the knowledge of reincarnation. I said, well, you get to take physics over, you get to take geometry over, we get to repeat things in school. It makes sense to be able to have another life, right? Maybe you're something you did in one life you're ashamed of. Well, God is so merciful. You have another incarnation, you have another life, that you can do it again. And in love, or maybe God forbid you, whatever people do or we do that we have shame, we come back again and we have a second opportunity. That was liberating for me, reincarnation. But that came easy. But the violet flame is the key.
Mhm.
So, from the teachings of the Ascended Masters, that the dispensation of Saint Germain, where the knowledge of the violet flame was for the high initiates, but now it's available to humanity, that we can transmute our karma and not have to re-embody life after life. That to me is is profound because in the past, you'd have to balance 100% of your karma. It's like they're doing everything they can to get us off this planet, which is balancing 51% of your karma. Like I said, Mark and Elizabeth Clare Prophet taking dictations of the masters, it sounds far out. But when you're in the presence of a dictation, you know that something is happening energetically. You may not know it on the outer, but it is so profound and to the point where, as we know, as keepers of the flame, and then the next question is, what is a keeper of the flame? Okay, that is a vow that we make, those who have been on the path, that we will keep the flame for humanity here on earth. It is the vow that we take as students of the Brotherhood that we are here to help, to, to keep and help and hold by the science of the spoken word, that we are contributing, just not us, um, the teachings of the Ascended Masters, but all light workers on this planet. Different people having a different affinity to different paths. We are one of those light workers. So that's very important. And but the most important thing is that you find your path. See, when you're in the dark, you got to turn on the light, right? What is your way? So for me, I've dibbled and dabbled in, you know, self-realization, Islam, the arcane school, Buddhism, Tao. We all have certain times and periods that we may be in a teaching. But for me, I've never left these teachings because it has filled me, my soul, where I'm constantly trying to self-realize who I am and my purpose. And for me, it is the ascension. And that was the example that Christ gave to us. He's not the only one to ascend, but we know how religion is nowadays. They make it seem like he's the only one son of God. And we're all sons and daughters of God by free will. That's the key, free will. So, did I answer your question? And the
Yes.
teachings of the Ascended Masters are a step-by-step um, way and teaching of how to balance our karma by the violet flame and how to hopefully ascend in this life by certain disciplines. The Ascended Masters are people just like you and I. They've just mastered and were able to get it right and ascend in that particular embodiment that they were in. But they are coming back to help us. They're giving us a lifeline. They're throwing us a rope to climb up. And by your inner teacher, your Holy Christ self, if you choose to get serious, this is the way. Mhm.
Would you like to give an example of the violet flame?
I am a being, a violet fire. I am the purity God desires. I remember when we were in SU, Elizabeth Clare Prophet, we call her Mother by devotion. She said, light is the sexiest vibration on the planet. I couldn't believe she used those words. But when you think about it, it is light. We all are looking for light. We all are looking for light. And we want purity. We want to be transparent. We want to be, it's a form of freedom, but it's not free. You know, you got to work for it. So, I don't know where I would be without these teachings. It's almost scary. You know, I am profoundly grateful. I am profoundly grateful. And I, I feel like I want to find my brothers and sisters who are also searching because I think about where would I be if I wasn't in these teachings? So that means where are my other friends of past lives, this lives, brothers and sisters? They're out there looking too. And so I would want somebody to find me. I would want someone to 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 go looking for me. And the angels, of course. I mean, the affinity, I was working while I was studying with a gentleman who wasn't in these teachings, but his meditation, because he was looking out for me, led me to these teachings. So we all have a different way. Some people come in through a book, some people find it online. Everybody has a different way of how they find their particular path or the teachings. I would imagine for me, it was through my teacher who was meditating. Mhm.
Is there anything else that you'd like to share?
Wherever you are, whoever you are out there, I hope that you don't give up looking. Materiality and success. But the only thing we can take when we leave this world is consciousness. So it's an inner peace that you find that you don't get with a career, that you don't have with materiality. It's an inner knowing that your um your communion is one of more peace. And I just hope that people who are searching don't give up and they find their way. And please do not be deterred by that concept of the Great White Brotherhood. It is the purity of consciousness, it is the purity of the aura of the masters that are here to help us because they have been an embodiment just like us. But if you follow these teachings and you do the violet flame and you call to Archangel Michael for the protection of yourself and your family, your world will turn around in ways you cannot believe. I'll give you a story. I was going on a job interview. Well, I have two stories, but let me see what's the best one. Okay. I was downtown and I was coming from a job interview. I had my mother in the car, and there was a guy across the street being robbed. And I was afraid for the guy because the man that was trying to rob him, he wouldn't give him his wallet. So anyway, I literally stood outside and called to Archangel Michael. Archangel Michael, come now. Archangel Michael, I need you. Help. Archangel Michael, come now. Literally, Pamela, I didn't even know. This must have been maybe 1996, 97. A plainclothes Jeep came down the street, two wheels on the sidewalk, two wheels on the road, and came out of nowhere. The guys took off, ran around the corner, and they caught him. That's one story. Second story, I'm coming from Montana. I have the children in the back, about four children. We have a station wagon. A friend of mine here in Atlanta was driving. And you know how when you're on a long distance trip, you forget to get gas. You know, it'll tell you no gas for so many. Well, I had fallen asleep. He didn't pay attention to it, so he woke me up, another keeper of the flame, who we had come from the July conference. And he said, Stephanie, I forgot to get gas. If we don't get off, we're going to run out of gas. And I was like, okay, let's get off. And so we were in a small town, and it was a gas station, but it was closed. It was probably 4 in the morning. We went down a road, but we didn't know where it was. It was very dark. I could hear pumps, like oil pumps. Maybe we were in Oklahoma. I don't know where we were. And make a long story short, I said, what we'll just have to do, him and I talked about it. We were just going to sit at the gas station and wait for them to open. We made a call to Archangel Michael, um, and Jesus, and maybe, I don't know, I don't remember what masters I called to. We weren't there 10 minutes. A guy comes to the gas station. He gets out, starts washing his window. He was on my side of the window, right? I rolled my window down. I said, Sir, we're not from here. We're looking for a gas station, a 24-hour gas station. Do you know where there'll be one? He said, You want gas? I'll give you gas. He said, This is a small town. Whoever was supposed to do the mail order this, they called in sick. So I came in to get gas. By the way, I own the place. And my daughter was in the back seat. She was like 14. She was like, I don't believe it, Mom. I don't believe it. And I was just so stunned. And I like coffee, right? And so he came over to the window. He said, I'm getting ready to make a cup of coffee. Would you like a cup? I said, Yes, thank you. I got my coffee and the gas, and we were on our way. That is just one of many stories that I can tell you being on this path. So I'm just grateful to be in the teachings of the Ascended Masters and to meet some friends that I have met from other lifetimes. And it's like I have a spiritual family. They're not my biological, but I think I'm closer to them than my own family, to be truthful. But, it is what it is. So, um, this is my journey. It's been my journey.
Thank you.
Thank you. Always victory. All righty. And may you find the violet flame. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is this going to be the end?
Unless there's anything else you want to add.
No, I just hope you find your way, and um, you really want to contemplate on reincarnation, what it means to you, and see our website and see if there's a particular master, the tsl.org, if there's a certain master or a topic that you have an affinity to, the ascension, twin flames, um, the violet flame. We all have some type of karma that we need to transmute being on this planet. So to me, the violet flame is critical for to have that discipline and the science of the spoken word, and it's life changing. So God bless you, and always victory. All
Always victory.
righty.
Thank you.
Always victory. God bless you.